Disaster today. A seismic event has rocked the conflicted territory of the simulation.
Populations that suffer from war and displacement and disaster are in extreme need. One of the primary goals of the Humanitarian Initiative and the simulation specifically is to improve the care that people get.
That's really where this course came from, is recognizing that everybody out there in the field shares the common goal of doing the best work possible in the most efficient and effective way.
The simulation has been going on for about 20 years.
Check your bags yourself. Okay. Are there any drugs or alcohol?
It is now one of the world's most complex, realistic, humanitarian crisis simulations that is used to train aid workers who are going to be helping people who have been forced from their homes all over the world.
2 or 3, but learning where they're.
We as the educators set up a fake humanitarian crisis, like you might see in the news, where there's conflict, but also famine or food security, there's illness, and there's a population of people who are in need of help who can't provide it for themselves. And we asked the students to do what we would do in the first 48 to 72 hours.
We were brought here in teams. We had 16 NGOs. We had a crisis situation, and in just 48 hours we had to basically come up with a game plan for this crisis and negotiate and kind of work with a bunch of other teams to come up with a plan. That was extremely challenging.
Fairly sure. And Dyson is the hospital. So that's Dyson Hospital.
Simulation, I think, is a really unique, immersive experience. We almost make it theater.
The more difficult the conditions are, the more interesting the simulation becomes.
There were many things embedded in the experience that were really challenging.
Anybody can take education in a classroom or in a book or online. What the simulation provides is a real-life experience for students where they go in and they face that stress. They understand how do they deal with challenging situations.
Every one of these things happens in the field. It would be terrible luck if they all happened, but they all happen, and so we want people to be prepared, experience it here, know what to do, so you can react better there.
It's very tricky, and they were excellent actors at keeping us going, and so you definitely felt that pressure to try to make sure, how do we keep this on track?
You'll learn a lot about yourself in the process, and you'll recognize, am I a person who's gonna eat this type of food and sleep on the ground?
Learn about what are your flaws, what are your challenges, what do you need to improve on, because that became way more evident for me now.
We really couldn't do this without our volunteers, and we're actually really fortunate because we have an army of volunteers that actually comes back every year.
And they all actually come from the field. And so we have people who've flown in from the DRC. We have people who've flown in from Cairo, simply to teach our students, which is just so powerful.
I come out mainly because I believe what Harvard's doing is important here. This kind of training helps them get an idea of what they may be looking at.
The idea that we can improve the quality and the professionalism in the humanitarian community is a real motivator to get people here.
It's very gratifying, actually, to know that many of the people in leadership at USAID, in UN agencies, in non-government organizations like Save the Children and IMC and others have actually taken the course, taken the sim, and found it to be really useful. And I get actually calls all the time that they say that they handled an issue that they learned at the sim. So it feels like we're actually really making a contribution to the professionalization of humanitarian aid. And that's the entire purpose of HHI, is professionalizing humanitarian assistance.
Humanitarian aid work is really hard. And what I want for the students who are coming out of this simulation is that when they get to the field for the first time and are taking care of those populations, that they aren't thrown off by the emotions they feel, the stress they feel. I want them to have already felt those things once before, so that when they're in the field, they can take the knowledge that they have from our courses and do the very best job to help save lives for all the millions of displaced people out there.
Conditions are improving today as international aid organizations coordinate a massive response.
The best part of the simulation is the community that it brings together every year, all with the common goal of improving humanitarian action around the world.